Oops. There we go. Good evening, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Wednesday Workshop with Build a Quilt. I'm Diana. So good to have you all with me tonight. Take a moment, please, while we're getting started, and just drop your name in the comment. Let us know where you're from if you like. Introduce yourself. I always love to say hello to you and find out where folks are tuning in from. Since we have subscribers here at the channel and all from all around the world, I love to know where you're watching from. So good evening. Now, if you've been with me for a while, let me take the banner down. We'll talk about that in a moment. But if you've been with me for a while, you know I am not in my normal spot. I am not in the normal spot of the studio, right? I am in a completely different area. And that's because there are some things over on this side of the studio that I want to talk to you guys about tonight, because tonight is, now I can put the banner back up. Do I need this? That is a question I actually get a lot. So we're going to talk tonight about kind of your toolkit and your accessories and your quilting paraphernalia. Do you need it or do you not? And we'll go into that more in just a little bit. I'm so glad to have you with me this evening. I can just tell you, it has been dumping rain down for days now here. So it's nice to be with you guys and kind of in a nice, relaxed atmosphere and not have to look outside. We've had horrible storms, we've had wind, we've had tornadoes, we've had rain. It's still raining outside. And I had to literally go out and start covering plants up and stuff because they were getting literally soaked to the bone. It's been crazy around here. So if you have been in, and I know that this rain has been, sorry, I just have some in my eye. This rain has been going around the country. So if you have been in it, my condolences to you. And of course, for the folks in Virginia and Kentucky and Virginia, Kentucky, and Missouri, I believe, who got struck by those horrible tornadoes. My heart goes out to you for sure. We live in a tornado zone, so I understand that fear and I understand the horror that comes with that when they do touch down and cause damage. And so my heart goes out to all of you. But yeah, it's been crazy around here. Again, if you're checking in or you're just showing up, please check in the comments. Say, hi, I'm so-and-so. Let us know where you're from if you want. Or let us know, are you new to quilting? Have you been quilting for a while? Have you been quilting forever? Like me, I've been quilting for I'm closer to 6 decades than I would like to admit. But I just say over 5, right? Nobody needs to know an exact number. Am I right? So tonight we are coming to you from the other side of the studio, and you can see right back here, I still have not finished wallpapering with my fabric there. I have the fabric, and now that I have all of this pulled out and kind of did some rearranging and reorganization today, perhaps I will go ahead and hang the fabric wallpaper and finish that up. I should, but I had to wait for more to come in because they sent me the wrong stuff originally. And so by the time it got here, I had everything back in place and I just didn't decide to wait. So, and that's been a while. That's been like a couple of years. So, but I do need to get that part done. You can see that ugly color on the wall back there. That color was supposed to be Blushing Bride. And that doesn't look like a blush for anybody that I know. It looks like dirty, muddy mud is what it looks like. It's a horrible color. That's why I wanted to do this papering idea, but I did it with fabric from Kimberbell. I found a fabric that I really liked and did it. I used their wide back fabric because I needed less of it. It took up a bigger uninterrupted space without seaming and all. It worked out really well. Maybe if I do that, I will do a video and show you how I do it if you're interested. So I see, hi folks. Hi, welcome. I've got some memes for us tonight before we get started. And I'm sorry if I've got reflections going on in my glasses. I don't know where it's coming from because I don't have a lot of extra lights on in here because it looked pretty light. However, please let me know in the comments, like if my sound drops out or anything like that because I'm not using my normal gear. I'm using different stuff. I'm using a laptop instead and all that. And so just let me know if anything gets a little weird, okay? Alrighty, so let's bring up our first meme for the night. I kind of laughed at this one. Here's the parrot, right? Here's the parrot. And it's blank, blank, blankety, blank, 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 stupid, blank, blank, blankety, sewing machine. And it's the parrot saying it. And we know what parrots do, right? They mimic what they hear. And down here it says quilter's parrot. Yeah, my parrot would not be allowed to be out in polite company, I'm afraid. I thought this one was really funny. I thought you guys would like this one. Because sometimes when we're sewing and quilting and stuff, it's just not like a good time. Things don't go our way, right? But with Build a Quilt, we know that it's pretty easy and you don't usually have a lot of hard times with it. So anyway, I saw that one I thought was super duper cute. The parrot mimicking. I have a story when I was a little girl, like 4, and I'm sorry, I'm like in just an old work shirt tonight. I've been like removing all this around and stuff. It's been, like I said, a crazy day. But when I was a kid, there was a rental place where you could rent equipment and tools and things like that if you didn't like own your own. And we used to go in there. My mom and I would go in there to take back whatever my dad had rented. And every time we went in there, somebody would start a wolf whistle. Now I can't whistle, so but that kind of a wolf whistle at my mother. Now my mother was a beautiful woman and she was young, and so I mean I can see. And back in the 60s, that was not considered to be inappropriate. But every single time, and it embarrassed my mom. We couldn't figure out. And then we found out that they had a myna bird in its cage, and somebody had taught it to do that whistle whenever a woman walked into the store, I guess. And so every time we walked in, but it took like 3 or 4 visits for us to figure out that it was this bird whistling at my mom. She thought it was really funny after that, but at the beginning she was a little embarrassed. So that was our first meme, our little bird there. Let's take a look at our next one. Whoops. Oh, there we go. Things don't run quite as slick as they do on my other system. So bear with me. Okay. I loved this one, and I bet you we can all appreciate it. True friends help you hide your fabric. Isn't that true? Now, this doesn't have anything to do with my fabric, but one of my absolute best friends in the world, she's like a sister to me. I used to help her hide her clothing purchases in the trunk of my car. That probably wasn't very nice of me, but she was my best friend. So it says true friends help you hide your fabric. So if you understand that, you can let us know. If you have a fun story about something like that, let us know in the comments because I would love to hear it. But I thought this one, I saw it, I thought it was really cute. True friends help you hide your fabric. That's right. They sure do. Alrighty. And then we have one more for tonight. And this last one for tonight, kind of goes a little bit with some of the stuff we're going to talk about tonight. So let me bring that one up. Here we go. This one says, I just spent 2 hours organizing my stockpile of fabric. I think I'll reward myself with a trip to the fabric shop. I got a big kick out of that one. Yeah, I can see myself saying that. Now, I thought what was funny about this to me when I originally read it was that somebody who doesn't quilt made that saying, because I don't know any quilters that call their stash a stockpile of fabric. That's like sounds like something my husband would say. Oh, use something out of your stockpile, because he doesn't know like the jargon, right? That quilters use, even though he probably hears me say it. It doesn't necessarily sink in, doesn't need to. And so when I read that, I thought somebody got the essence of this correct, but it's, I think, written by somebody who's not a quilter or not even like a garment sewer, because I've never heard a fabric stash called a stockpile. It works. It's just, I just thought that was funny. And that kind of has a little bit to do with our stuff that we're going to talk about tonight. Do I need this? Now, my thought is, in the fabric world, if I need it, yes, I need it. All right, let's go ahead and take that one down. All righty. So before we get into tonight's main subject, let me touch base with you on, where did I put it? So over here, you can see this big chest here. We're going to talk about that more in a moment, but I have some stuff stashed here so I can, no, where did I put it? Oh, there it is. Yeah, it is here. All right. So we are in the process of doing our new quilt along called Reflections in Flight. It all has to do, this is the star of the quilt, the Flying Geese unit. Last week, we added the next piece, which was the diamond in a square, and they went together. And I gave you all, I showed you how they went together and what you needed to do based on the size of your quilt. If you're going to do this quilt with us, you will need the Build a Quilt basic set. The basic set is 6 of the most often used segment pieces in quilting. And you get all of the written information, all of the how-to videos, all of the digital files. And this is a complete download. I just keep mine in a binder so it's easy to show it to folks. But you'll need that. And then you'll need the free download from last week, the worksheet that gave you those, the same diagrams and information that we went over last week during workshop, so that you will know how to put that together. Okay. And I will announce now, and I'll try to remember to announce it again. We are not moving on with the quilt until the first Wednesday in June, because next week is Memorial Day Monday on into the weekend of the weekend. And Dave and I have, well, Memorial Day, we're going away at the end of the week. And also, we are not going to be together next Wednesday because we're going to consider that Memorial Day. And we have, Dave and I won't be around. So I wanted to let you all know that. And I'll try to remind you again at the end that we are kind of taking a week off. So the next week is the first Wednesday in June. And that is when we'll pick back up with our quilt along. So if you're not caught up yet with making your pieces, you've got like a week plus, a week and a half, basically, actually 2 weeks really, to get caught up and get them done. And I know I'll be using some of that time to get mine done too, because I'm not quite there yet. I've got most of them done, but not quite there yet. And I'm also going to try and get the top done to our last quilt so you guys can finally see it. Keeping my fingers crossed that I can get all that done by the first Wednesday. Also, if you are a Quilt Lab subscriber, your first free block of the quarter, that is the block that comes in 2 sizes, that is coming out at the end of next week. So get ready. You'll see that in the members only area on the website. That's where that will get posted. I'll probably send out an email saying, hey, it's out there, it's ready, so you know. But that one's coming out. I've got the block picked out. I've got the block made. It's going to be gorgeous. You guys are going to love it. And those blocks are coming in 2 sizes, one that could be used as a mini quilt or a smaller block in a quilt. And another one is the other size is the larger size if you want to use it to make a larger quilt. So I think you guys will really like those. So that's coming out the end of next week. Okay. All righty. So, so Reflections in Flight will pick up that the first Wednesday in June. All righty. So I want to give you guys the question of the week now. We'll pick a winner at the end, a random winner. So you don't need to answer now, but I want to give you the question now because I want you to think about it, okay? And then because what you think now might change by the time we're done tonight, or maybe not. You might say, "Oh, I've got more than one thing." But the question this week is for question of the week prize is, what one tool can you not live without in your quilting area, right? Or in quilting. Now, I will tell you that it can be, I have a tool that I don't use with Build a Quilt, but I love it. It was a gift. I don't really use it, but I keep it kind of on display, and I always will. Right? So if you've got something like that, think about that as your answer too. But what one tool can you not live without in your quilting area? Be thinking about that. So, whoops. So at the end tonight, we can spin. I can see your answers, and we can spin for the winner. All right. So tonight, do I need this? We're kind of talk about storage, organization a little bit, and things that you do or don't need in regard to Build a Quilt. Because what brought this subject up for me was I've gotten a couple of questions recently from experienced quilters who have decided to, and each one of them has a different reason, to switch over from a different quilting, piecing, patchwork technique to Build a Quilt. Let me check comments. Hi, Ruth. How are you tonight, dear? So glad you could be with us. Actually, it's afternoon where you are, Ruth. Happy afternoon to you, Ruth. So I got the question from two experienced quilters about two different items. Do I need this for Build a Quilt? They kind of had watched some videos and they weren't quite sure. And you guys know, if you're an experienced quilter and you've been doing patchwork in other ways, that you collect a lot of, we'll call them tools or accessories or paraphernalia or things that you use. And sometimes you end up using them once and never again. And I'm going to show you an example of this here in a little bit. And your eyes are going to bug out. I'm just warning you. The eyes are bugging, okay? Because you're gonna flip when you see this. Now, some of you experienced quilters might have this as well. If you're just tuning in, folks, please say hello in the comments. I'd love to know where you're checking in from and say hello back to you. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the idea of what do you absolutely need for Build a Quilt, and this idea of, do I need it because Diana shows it to me, or do I need it because I see it out on the internet? I see other quilters using it, and we tend to think that way. It's a human thing, right? You see something, somebody says, "Oh, I have this type of phone. I love it. It's the best phone in the world. I'll never use another phone. You have to have it too." And then we start to think, "Oh, well, what's so nice about it?" And they start showing you all the stuff. "Oh, yeah. Oh, I should have that. I need that." And then when you get it or you stop and think about it, you think, "Well, I'm never going to use that. I don't like that. My phone might be a bigger phone than you want to use, or a smaller phone than you want to." I mean, it's that kind of thing. And it's that way with everything. People will tell you that a certain food is the best food ever. You have to eat it. And then when you have it, whoops, I must have turned my volume up because I can hear words coming out of my phone. So it's that kind of thing, right? You say, um, um, I use this brand of something, and then all of a sudden you think you have to have it. And a lot of times that's just not the case. And I don't ever try to force something on you guys, because a lot of times there are options. And I think you should have options, because you might need to be on a real budget conscious quilting journey. Maybe not, but maybe you're not on a budget conscious quilting journey, but you want to put your funds into really beautiful fabrics versus tools and things. So that's the kind of thing we're going to talk to tonight. I don't want you to ever feel that you must purchase something that I suggest, or necessarily that you see from someone else. Okay, you should have options. So let's see, we have Kathy. Hi Kathy. Kathy, you're in Pittsburgh tonight. Now you're going to find this funny. Dave and I used to live in Pittsburgh. We had been married maybe about a year and a half when we moved to Pittsburgh. He had a cooperative education job with the university where we were going to school for his degree program in chemistry at that time. And so we lived in Pittsburgh for a year. And boy, the stories I could tell you. It was at a really low economic time in Pittsburgh. I have some really wild stories for another day. Kathy says, at Gloria Horn Sewing Studio spring event, having a blast. Oh, Kathy, I'm so happy for you. Well, say hello to all of our fellow quilters. We love that. That's awesome. I would love to someday maybe have an event where we could all get together. Wouldn't that be fun? I think it would be. So, all righty. So let's talk about, just for a moment, organization. And let's talk specifically about organization of fabric. Okay. Now, what you're seeing here, these are all samples of things that we've made or that I've designed, and they're that type of thing, right? So you don't need someplace to hang your things like this. In fact, these are not like my quilts and things that I use all the time. This is strictly a business thing so that when I'm designing for Build a Quilt or I'm putting something together, I have a place where I can easily find everything. To be honest, I am not wild about putting our fabric out in the open air. Now, I know there's this idea that you don't want your fabric in plastics or things because they need to breathe. That's kind of true. Let me just say this. If you put your fabric in plastic and it stayed dry, I mean, the big deal with that is you don't want moisture in there. But if it stayed dry, being in plastic isn't going to degrade your fabric. Not in your lifetime, anyway. That's the science behind that. But the reason I don't like to keep my fabric just out everywhere is because of dust. Dust is more of an enemy to your fabric than what you're storing it in. So I just showed you, we all know now that Joann's has gone goodbye, right? Right before the one in our town closed, they had these big boxes on sale for like super cheap, like dirt cheap. And I can fit a ton, like 100 fat quarters in here. These are great for travel. These are great. I've now found, like, if I have lots of duplicates, I can file these away in here for the duplicates, because I don't like having, if I have 20 fat quarters of a fabric, I don't need all of that in my working fat quarters, right? I might need 8 of them. And then I can use these to store all the rest, because with Build a Quilt, what really is the best way to do fabric is to buy fat quarters or to buy yardage and cut it into fat quarters, because fat quarters work beautifully for prepping for your segment pieces. And in our website, there's a free download on a fabric quantity sheet that talks about like how many of each thing you can get from yardage depending on width and from fat quarters. And the fat quarter one is really, I think, the way you should go. It is the way I have transitioned my fabric for working with Build a Quilt. Okay, so that's one way. And plastic, this is fine. This, I know it looks all closed up, but it's getting air in the side, because this is not watertight by any means, right? So it's getting air. But if you really wanted to have a little more air, I know those of us that have quilted for a long time, really, I mean, some of those things we've learned, like some of the things I learned almost 60 years ago from my grandmother, still stick in my head when I decide that I want to change them. I hear Gran saying, no, Dee, you don't want to do that, and here's why. And then I think, yeah, but Gran, things have changed now, right? So if this bothers you being closed, poke yourself some holes in it so a little bit of air can get in there. It's not going to hurt it. But one, it's going to keep your fabric clean. Having fabric out on our shelves, just folded or whatever, or even on the little bolts, it's going to get dusty. It's going to fade over time. Even with just room light, it will eventually start to fade in places, especially the part that is facing out to the light. So that kind of thing to keep in mind. Now, right here, I'm going to move my camera a little bit so you can see some of this. This says US General. That's the brand. This was purchased from Harbor Freight. That's right, Harbor Freight. Back during COVID, um, we went shopping on a Saturday, and I really wanted something to store all of my gadgets and gizmos and my cutting machine stuff, all of that. And so this was on sale. It is super high quality, super heavy duty. It even comes with really good keys so you can lock it, which I do at the holidays because I use a drawer to store Christmas presents in. Don't tell anybody. So it comes with keys. They work great. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 drawers that go from thin ones up here at the top. So you can see that's kind of thin, but that's okay because then I keep stuff like my scissors and things like that in it. And then the last ones at the bottom are really deep for your fat quarters, especially your working fat quarters. And so this has been full to the ever-loving brim of all of my crafting and sewing and quilting for other technique things. So I have gone through and wholesale cleared it out, just cleared out everything. So I still have some of my things up here, the random things that I use, and a few things in here. And then when I get down to this is actually empty right now. And then all of these at the bottom are now clear. Well, one of them, I keep all of my, brother cutting machine stuff in, my mats and stuff like that. That's in one drawer. But everything else I can keep now my fat quarters in. So when I go over, I can label these right here. I can pull out the drawer. One drawer might say like blues and greens and aquas. One might say reds and pinks and rusts and oranges, stuff like that. And then I can open those up, glorious color, and I can see it. Now, this was a gift. Is this something that you need? No, of course not. However, I will say that if you have a smaller space that you quilt in, having something like this could be really helpful because you can put a cutting mat up here, and let me show you. You can put a cutting mat and you can get yourself a larger wool mat that goes on top of that. Then you have a cutting table and you have an ironing surface. So if you need something that is going to work for storing your tools and your fabric and something that you can cut on and iron on, then something like this, when they're on sale, isn't a huge purchase. And it works, and it's on wheels, so you can move it around if you need to. So you could have this in your machine, and hey presto, right? But you don't have to have something like this. It's nice to have. It could be convenient and helpful, but it's not a must. Okay. But you will want something to store your fabric in. Now, I have IKEA units with buckets. I have them. I've switched over to their bigger plastic bins because I can see, and their half-size ones will fit fat quarters beautifully. So I've done that. I will do a video here in this summer sometime and kind of do a tour of how I have the studio, because you guys have asked me about that, and I've just never had it where I wanted to be able to show that to you. The other reason we're talking about this is not only have I had this question about, do I need this from experienced quilters? I've also had it from brand new quilters that are joining us with Build a Quilt because they might have somebody in their family, a grandma, an aunt, a mom, someone, or a grandfather or uncle, whomever, who quilts for that with them. Um, and is excited that they're getting to start to quilt, and they keep telling me, oh, you need this and you need this and you need this, and they never see me using it in the videos, so they're asking, do I need that? So this is kind of to help the newbie as well, because we all started somewhere, right? We were all newbies at one time. So something to store your fabric in. If you can use something that gives you multi-purpose in one unit, then you're in good shape. That to me makes more sense than worrying about like having bins and shelving and stuff like that. That might come for you at a later time, um, it as you expand your quilting. But at the beginning, if you can have something that does multi-purpose for you, then that can be a good thing. Now, before we move on to more tools, I want to talk about the most important tool with Build a Quilt, because we all know that Build a Quilt is patchwork done with the hoop of our embroidery machine, 5x7 hoop, 9 times out of 10, right? We're starting to move into some larger pieces, but for the basic system and most patterns, the 5x7 hoop is all you need. So here it is. What machine do I need? I get that question a lot, especially, believe it or not, more from experienced quilters, because they have big fancy sewing machines, but they've not delved into the world of the embroidery machine yet. Believe it or not all sewers or quilters have embroidery machines. I know that's kind of hard to understand, but that's, remember, why I started Build a Quilt in the first place, because all of my machine embroidery friends would not quilt with me in the traditional sense. So, what kind of a machine do you need? Do you need a big, beautiful Janome or Brother or Bernina top end? Absolutely not. In fact, I recommend you don't go there, especially if you're just starting with Build a Quilt, okay? Because you don't need it, and they are a very considered purchase. Some of those machines cost as much as a really good certified used car these days. I'm not kidding. They can be over $20,000. So I just say don't even go there, especially if you're not overly concerned at this point about doing other types of embroidery. If you can get a good basic machine that has a 5x7 hoop, it's going to have the features you need to do Build a Quilt, because what Build a Quilt really does is we are telling it through a digital file to do what we would normally do on the sewing machine, but it takes care of all the precision work. It takes care of all the repetitive stress on our hands, takes care of some of the work that you get from eye stress when you do other forms of traditional quilting. You're really down there looking at small little stitches. All of that gets taken care of by the embroidery machine. So if you're just starting out, you have not purchased a machine yet, a basic machine. And I know when you go to a shop, they're going to want to sell you a larger machine. And I would just really stick to your guns if you're brand new and say, I just want this. Maybe in a year, I'll be ready to move on. And a lot of times they'll take a trade in and stuff like that, and you can move on. But don't think you have to go out and spend thousands of dollars to get a machine and do Build a Quilt, because that is absolutely not necessary. Now, in regard to brand of machine, I'm just going to be really honest. I think most of us end up with the brands we end up with because they're the first ones we were introduced to. The first embroidery machine I was introduced to was a Baby Lock, and I loved it. It was easy to use. Because I had been a quilter and a sewer all my life in the traditional sense, I figured it out pretty easily. Although when I came home that day and told my husband how much I had loved it at the shop and had used it during a class, he went out and bought me a really nice basic Singer embroidery machine, and it worked like a champ. I still wish to this day I had that machine because it worked so well. But in my heart, I really wanted that big, beautiful Baby lock. But I promised my husband that I would not use credit to buy a machine. So I saved. I saved every penny I could. And I eventually got myself a nice little basic baby lock. And you would have thought baby lock hung the moon and the stars. I loved it so much. When I got rid of it, traded it in for the bigger machines I have now, I cried because I had loved that machine so much. And the nice thing about getting a small basic machine is when you are ready, or even if you are ready at the beginning to start doing a little bit of machine embroidery, they're easy to work with. They're not overly complicated. No, you can't do everything in the world with the small ones, but you can do more now than you could when I got mine. And when I got mine, boy, I thought it did everything I would ever need it to do. So, brand, I think you're going to get whatever your local shop carries and introduces you to, because to be honest, they're all great brands. What I do now is Baby Lock and Brother, basically the same machine. I mean, they're just right there. But I will tell you that my one brother, my dream machine too, it's a gently used machine. And it has been the best machine I've ever owned, even more than my Still Air. That machine has been the best machine I've ever owned. It is a true workhorse. It stitches beautifully. So if you're ready to move up to a slightly bigger machine and you still don't want to spend, all the money in the world that you've saved on the machine, talk to the shop about some of their trade-ins, their gently used machines. They've usually gone through them and made sure that they are in working order. Sometimes they give you a little bit of a warranty on them or a free cleaning, something like that. Have them show it to you, have them like run it through its paces a little bit so you can see, but you can get really beautiful machines. My machine was many thousands of dollars when it was brand new, way, 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 way out of my price range. But when I bought it gently used, I almost got a brand new machine for under $3,000. And it's because somebody was at a show, bought the machine, got so excited about getting it, bought the machine, brought it home, and realized, I don't really like this. I don't really want to do this. And the woman who bought that machine had bought every accessory they made to go with it. I'm not kidding. Every single one, every hoop, everything, every stand, every case, you name it, she bought it. And she took that and sold it on commission through my local shop, which is a couple of hours from here. And I was able to get all of that. I am so thankful she decided she didn't want to be an embroiderer because I love that machine. Okay. And then I have a Brother Still Air, which is a beautiful machine, a more modern machine. I use it truly for embroidery, right? It's that level. The stitching for the embroidery is beautiful. But brands, Bernina, Berninas are beautiful machines, but I see Berninas as those race cars that are a little high strung, a little touchy when you press on the pedal. That's how I see Bernina. I have friends who will go to their grave saying the Bernina is the best machine they've ever had. And every time I see them at a class, their Bernina breaks down, but it doesn't keep them from loving it because it's usually an easy repair. So it's just a very, very high functioning machine, but I've always seen it kind of. I had to use one in a class one day and I didn't even get through the class because the machine didn't work for me. But I know Bernina is a beautiful, good brand machine, right? I know it is. Janome, Husqvarna Viking, they're all great machines. They all do generally the same thing, okay? So buttons might be in different places, they might have slightly different sized hoops, but they all pretty much do the same thing, especially at that basic level. All righty, so that's the machine thing. Let's move on. So things that you don't necessarily need. If you've got questions or anything, please pop them into the comments. I'll be happy to answer. Told you a few minutes ago, I had a bucket to show you of things that I've collected over the years as a quilter that I've used once, maybe a couple times. One of them sitting here that's not even out of the wrapper yet. Are you ready for this? I'm showing, oh gosh, this is heavy. Templates. Do you need all of the templates that are out there? And holy moly, are there a ton of them. Look at all of these templates. Like I said, I've still got some in the packaging. Little templates, big templates, funny shape templates. That's because in traditional quilting, you have to cut certain shapes and then stitch them together. Unlike Build a Quilt, where your shape is built into the digital file, you don't need any of that. Let me show you what you might want to use in regard to templates. Let me actually grab my two things that you're absolutely going to need. The one ruler you absolutely need is a 3x12. You've heard me say it a bazillion times. I don't care about the brand. I use Quilter Select just because I like the non-slip. And the only thing is you want to make sure it has a very easily seen 1/4 inch mark on it for trimming out your pieces out of the stabilizer. But any brand will do. 3x12, I use it constantly. I have half a dozen of these because I have them everywhere. I cut and sew and measure. In fact, I even keep one in the kitchen drawer. So a 3x12, absolutely. You absolutely need a 45 millimeter, let me lock that, a 45 millimeter rotary cutter, straight rotary cutter. Any kind of handle. I use this kind of handle only because it feels good in my palm. It's ergonomic, and I've had carpal tunnel surgery on both hands. If you watch, when we trim stuff out of stabilizer, I always recommend a pinking blade. That's because it takes out bulk. You see these handles are the exact same. I'm a lefty, so that's why they, whoops, there we go. So I have two. I won one and I had bought one. So I put a pinking blade in one and I put a pinking blade in one and a regular blade in the other, but you can have just one handle and switch your blades in and out. But you will absolutely, you don't have to have this, but I feel like it's almost a necessity for Build a Quilt. But the straight blade, you absolutely need that. And you need that for any form of quilting really these days. When they came up with doing rotary cutting for cutting fabric and quilting, it was a glorious day. All right, so back to our templates. Do you need a squaring up template? Somebody tell me who's been doing Build a Quilt who's watching right now. Do you need a squaring up template? And if you say yes, you and I need to talk because you absolutely do not need a squaring up template. One of the things that I hated about traditional quilting was squaring up my segments once they were made. Because once you square up one, you got to square up all of them. And I told you about the quilt I made that had 2,500 half square triangles in it. I had to square up every single one of them. And they were little bitty 2.5 inch ones. Oh, I hated it. So something like this, you do not need, okay? If you have one and you can kind of see through it, you could use it maybe for fussy cutting a little bit, but you do not need a square up template. But here's some more. Do you need the famous add a 1/4 ruler that adds a 1/4 inch for your seaming? No, absolutely not. Why? Because that 1/4 inch gets built into your digital file. You do not need this. Now this is a template for binding. You do not need it, but I'm going to be doing a video because you guys have asked me for a video on binding in the future, and we will talk about this then because this actually is helpful. And you can do other things with it too. But you don't need the add a 1/4 inch one. I got talked into that before Build a Quilt, before I started doing Build a Quilt, and I wish I had never bought it because I've never actually liked it. Now, there is a set of templates. You don't need them. I'll just be honest, you absolutely don't need them, but I highly recommend them when you're fussy cutting. This is from Fons and Porter. It is their acrylic fussy cutting set. Now, you guys know that there are fussy cutting templates for free download at our website, mybuildaquilt.com. You can get those and use them. There's instructions. We've talked about it in videos, all of that. But if you ask for a gift or something, or maybe you have you exchange gifts with people that you know that quilt at the holidays, you might want to ask for this. It's not an expensive set, but you get all the way from the little all the way up to the big. They're just clear acrylic that you can use for fussy cutting. And what I love is, see this frosted area? That's a 1/4 inch wide. So you know that this is going to be your seam. Let me put all these down and just hold one up. This is going to be where your seam is. So you know your fussy cut needs to be in that crystal clear area. And you can tell I've used mine. Mine are all marked up and dinged up. This one had something stuck on it. I'm going to have to go and take that off. I don't know what that is, but it's got something on it. But I use these a lot and I really love them. Again, they're not necessary, but they are extremely helpful. Okay. Now, here's another type of template. This one is by a company called Sew Biz Inc., Donnell McAdams. Do you see these? Do you guys know what these are? If anybody knows what this kind of template is, say so in the comments. I'll tell you here in a second, but you can say so. There are different shapes in this set, and they look like this. Do you know what that is? You do not need it for Build a Quilt. You don't need it for any quilting. However, what these are for doing finish quilting with your sewing machine. They have videos, they have instructions, but you kind of, so if you're horrible at free motion, the way I am, I decided that I would do some template quilting, because you just trace around it with your needle and you get the shape you want, and then you can move it and you end up quilting your quilt that way with these kinds of templates. They work really easy. There's a little bit of a learning curve. There's always a learning curve with everything we do. It might be small for you, bigger for someone else. It just depends. So these are not necessary for finished quilting. And because we can do our finished quilting with our embroidery machine, I don't use these anymore. But if you are someone who likes to do that type of finished quilting, a free motion type of thing on your sewing machine, then that is something you don't need. But if you want to give it a try, that's a type of template you might want to have. But again, not necessary. The only thing I've shown you so far that is absolutely necessary for Build a Quilt is a 3x12 ruler and a 45 millimeter rotary cutter. So far, that's only 2 tools. And look at all of them I showed you. So I know you're asking. I know someone's out there going, holy heck, Diana, what are you going to do with all of those templates? Well, here's the deal. If you are an experienced quilter and you're like me and you have, and that's not the only bucket like that. I hate to tell you that. I've got more of them, of templates. What you could do is, maybe if you belong to a guild or if you have a group of quilting friends, maybe you want to do some exchange, maybe exchange some templates for some fabric. There you go. Something like that. Or if you're going to have a rummage sale, garage sale sometime this summer, maybe you do one on your block or you do one with a family member, sell them. I wouldn't take less than $5 a piece for these big ones. I'm telling you, some of these acrylic templates were very, very expensive. I sit there and I almost weep looking at that bucket, knowing that I will never use it again. Okay. Mine are going to go. I know. We're putting together some kits at our guild. I'm going to donate some, but some are going to go in the garage sale. Alrighty. So I showed you these sometimes in the next thing. Do I need it? They're called Alpha Biddies by it's So Emma, Fat Quarter Shop folks, right? And they're these little plastic templates or squares. They remind me of Scrabble. It's like quilting Scrabble, right? Different colors, all that. You get A through Z, 0 through 9. They're plastic. what are they for? When you're cutting out your pieces, you can put the letters on them so you know what stacks are what. Do you need them? Of course not. You can use paper, pieces of paper, whatever you want to do, however you organize your pieces of fabric. However, if you have them, use them because they do work really well. They're just not something you have to have. I was gifted some. I bought my original set. I was gifted some. I love them, but I don't need them. They're one of those things that it's like nice to have, but I don't absolutely need to have it. Alrighty, here's the next thing. Do I need a fancy fabric glue stick? Now, you guys know we have a video series, a video, sorry, about glue sticks, where I did a whole experiment on several glue sticks. Do they work? And which one came up to be my favorite? And this came up to be my favorite. It's Bowen. It's a French one. I buy it through Fat Quarter Shop. I'm not sponsored by any of these people. This is just where I get my stuff since I don't live close to a store. But I think you can get them through other online retailers or probably at your local retailer. It is a washable fabric glue with Build A Quilt. When you wash out your stabilizer, you'll wash out the glue as well, so you don't have to worry about it staying in your fabric. So with glue, and we just use dots of it sometimes when we flip the fabric to hold it down. With glue, you absolutely have to have something that's good, it's non-toxic or made for fabric, because it's low chemical. It's not going to hurt the fiber of the fabric. That's why these are good. But good old Elmer's school glue will do equally the same thing, and it's equally as mild. So let me see here. Every year when school gets ready to start, I go buy myself a little package of these. Why? Because the refills for these get pricey. I keep the refills around and I use these mostly, but when I travel and all to teach classes and stuff, a lot of times I just take my Elmer sticks with me. These are really inexpensive. So if you want to do something more budget conscious, get yourself a good old Elmer stick instead of one of these. Okay. These are not necessary, but these are really helpful. Okay. So let's see, we've got some comments. Ruth says, I made my alpha biddies out of cardstock that I had from another project. Ruth, bravo. That's the best hint all evening, Ruth. That's great. Absolutely. You can make that type of a thing to mark your fabrics, and making it out of cardstock, you can reuse those a lot because cardstock really holds up. That's an awesome idea, Ruth. Thanks so much for sharing. All righty. Do you need Karen K. Buckley scissors? You guys know I show you these every time I do a video. I love them. I adore them. If someone took my Karen K. Buckleys, I would go after them because I can't work without them. But do you need Karen K. Buckley? No, absolutely not. The one thing I will share with you about your scissors, you do need snips, and something about that size is really all you need. This is considered a 4-inch, I think. This is not 4 inches. I'm just telling you, that's not 4 inches. I think it's this whole thing that's 4 inches. But the reason I love these is they have a serrated edge, and serration on your blades of your scissors give you a cleaner cut and less fraying. A lot of times fraying starts when we cut fabric. Why? Because we have dull or single bladed scissors with no serration, and it pulls on the fibers as it cuts. And what does that pulling do? It starts the fraying. So with something like these Karen K. Buckleys, and you can't see them when I bring it up even close because it's a micro serration, little bitty serration along there, it gives you a clean cut. I've had these probably for 6 years. They cut as good today as they did back when I first bought them. I told you earlier that I have a half a dozen of these. I have a half a dozen of these as well, because I found my brand, the brand that I love that works best for me. I'm also a lefty, and so these can be good for a lefty or a righty. Lefties, you cannot use righty scissors when you cut fabric. You might get away with it when you cut paper or other things, But for fabric, you will get 10 times more fraying than your righty friends if you're using righty scissors. Okay. So something like the Karen K. Buckleys work perfectly for lefties and righties. Alrighty. These are not horribly expensive either. So that's great. They really hold up. But all you need is a good pair of snips. So if you have another brand that is a good pair and you love them and they're your thing, rock on, keep going with them. Don't go buy new ones just because I told you how much I love them. See, that's how we get people get you to buy things, is they say, I love it, it's the best thing in the world. And I think these are, but you do not need to go buy them. Alrighty. Just a couple more things and we're almost done. We're almost out of time. I'm going to tell you now, we're going to go 5 minutes over probably. I hope that's okay. The other thing you absolutely do need for Build a Quilt is wash away stabilizer. I've got stabilizer videos out there. I've got a couple of them. I connect them to almost everything because they're important, but go look them up on the channel and watch them if you haven't. Because most times we're only using a 5x7 hoop, I like pre-cut stabilizer because I'm lazy. These fit perfect in my 5x7 hoop. I just take a sheet, plop it in there, away I go. But when I'm making a ton of stuff and really go into town, not having to stop and cut my stabilizer each and every time makes a huge time gain for me. Okay, let's put that one over there. However, if you're going to be starting to make some of our expanded sizes where you must use larger hoops, you also must use your stabilizer on a roll. Okay, so it's good to have that around. Which is less expensive? I think they're about the same if we're talking the 5x7 hoops. However, if you are talking about bigger hoops, you have to use it on a roll. And what I would suggest is like pre-cut 12 sheets of it for your hoop for you. That way you're not having to cut it each and every time. Let's see. Kathy said, I embroidered my alphabetties and covered them with vinyl. You made embroidered letters and no, Kathy, that's really a good idea. That's way more effort than I would have done, but that sounds like an awesome idea. Kathy, please send me a picture that I can share. And Ruth, please send me a picture of yours so I can share, because I think it's easier for folks to see how you did them in a picture than for me to try to explain it. Both of those, bravo, ladies. Those are great, great ideas. So I will tell you this, back on our stabilizer, thoughts of our stabilizer. Do not buy the most expensive name brand stabilizer, wash away stabilizer you can find. The cheapest that you can find in wash away will work perfectly for Build a Quilt. Because you're only really doing a straight stitch. You're not adding a lot of stitch intensity to an item like you would with regular embroidery. So an inexpensive will work. It'll wash away, and you're going to be saving yourself some money that way by not spending a lot of it on name brand. For a long time, I got caught up in only using name brand stabilizer. I was spending a ton of money on stabilizer, and I didn't need to. Kathy says, Ruth says, Kathy, did you cover both sides with the vinyl? Please let us know when you send me the picture, Kathy, because she said she will. And she also made a bag for them. Of course she did. You guys are all so talented and creative. All right. So what do you absolutely need to do Build a Quilt? Well, you need patterns, right? You need the digital files because you can't do that without them. And of course, I'm going to recommend the digital combo basic set. We have some more sets coming that will be additions to this set, but this is the basic. This is the one you get all of the how-to videos. This is the one where you get everything you need to get started. This is the one where we're going to be having the mini course on how do I use this if I have a pre-purchased pattern that I want to make using the Build a Quilt system. This is your system with Build a Quilt. Now, so you will need that. It's a complete download. It's a lifetime warranty. If you lose a file, miss a file, you just let me know. I look up your stuff and send you the new one. It's not a problem. So you need that. You need at least a 5x7 hoop to go with your embroidery machine. You don't need the most expensive embroidery machine. If you have a big, beautiful embroidery machine, I'm not putting them down. I love them. I have a couple now. It took me years to get them, but I love them. I wouldn't want to trade them. But I also remember working on my basic machines, and I love them almost just as much because I was so excited to be able to do that at all. So you need a machine with a 5x7 hoop. You need that 5x7 hoop. You need wash away stabilizer. You need a 3x12 ruler. You need a regular 45 millimeter blade. You need your thread and your needles, blah, blah, all that kind of stuff to go with it. That's all you need. Oh, and fabric, of course, fabric, right? But that's all you need to build a quilt. So all of these other things I've showed you, and there's so much more that quilters normally end up having that you don't need, right? You don't need a big expensive iron, just a general little iron will work. You do need a, I don't recommend pins. I do recommend that you get yourself a handful of these little quilting clips. They work way better. You see them in all of my videos. This is all I ever use. And this is something I truly think this is a better mousetrap and works better for Build a Quilt than pins do. Okay. You will need something to iron on. If you've got an ironing board, that's all you need. If you don't have an ironing board and you have to have a small space, get yourself a little woolen mat. Put something under it to catch the steam that comes through the bottom. Otherwise, you will end up marring the surface that it's on. Okay. And you need something to cut on. You need a cutting mat. You don't need a big, huge cutting mat and a cutting table. Just a small cutting mat will do for you. That is something you need to have to cut your fabric. So that's really all you have to have with Build a Quilt. Nothing else. Isn't that great? Nothing else. There are other things that are fun to have. I'm not saying they're not, but you don't need to run out and buy a whole bunch of things. Okay. The idea of Build a Quilt is that for some reason you have wanted to quilt for a while now. And traditional quilting methods, piecing methods have stopped you because maybe precision, maybe because of your problems with your hands or your eyesight. Build a Quilt will really help you get beyond those things and do it. You'll be piecing your first quilt the very first time you sit down to do it. It's just that easy. There is going to be a Build a Quilt Basics mini course coming. When you buy your basic set, though, there are how-to videos. There's hundreds of videos here on the channel. So please take a look at them. Ask questions. I'm here for you guys. Now, there's one other thing I wanted to show you, and then we're going to do, if you want to start putting out answers to your questions of the week, what one tool can you not live without? Now that we've talked about all of these tools, is there a tool that you can't live without, even though you might not use it for quilting, or one that you absolutely would take to the desert island with you? Put in your answers, and then we will spin for a winner here. Now, you know that this year, if this is for quilt labbers, this year we're doing mini quilts, and our good friend Sue has been showing them on that cute little stand. I also wanted to show you these. These are perfect for mini quilts too. A lot of fabric stores have them. I think you can find them maybe on Amazon. But they're out there, and these are great because you can just clip your little mini quilt on them, hang them on the wall if you want to. I do that with a lot of mine. I found this today in when I was cleaning out the big box here, and thought I would show that to you guys. Okay, but those are around. That's another because I've had some questions. How can I like display these if I don't want to use them as a mat or something? All righty, everybody. I don't have any answers to our question of the week. Is anybody going to answer? Okay. Well, that's okay. Maybe that wasn't a good question for this week. All righty, everybody. Let's see. Oh, Kathy says her Martelli rotary cutter. I think I know which one that is, Kathy. It's kind of a very specialized rotary cutter, if I remember. And for some reason, I don't think I could use it. I don't think it worked with my leftyism because I think I think I have a friend who I've taken a class with in the past who used one. And Ruth says her 6x12 ruler the most. Oh, 6x12. That's great when you're cutting down big yardage for sure. I've got one. I keep it on a hook hung right here, a magnetic hook hung right here on the side of the big box. I have my own big box. I don't have to go to a store. I've got my own big box right there. Okay, folks, I hope that tonight this was helpful for you. I hope it answered the questions from our experienced and our new Build A Quilters. You all, no matter what your experience level with quilting, mean the world to me. And I love that I have over 700,000 quilting friends. I love that. I love that we have folks all the way around on the other side of the world that like to quilt with us too. I think that's awesome because I think quilting ultimately is about friendship. When I see my grandma sitting around a table with all her lady friends when I was a little girl quilting, and that's how the world ran. They solved the world's problems. Maybe that's what we need in government these days is a big quilting circle to solve the world's problems. Thank you, Kathy. I'm glad that was helpful for you. Kathy and Ruth, you answered our question. Both of you send me your email address and I will send you both a prize for the week, okay? So that's Ruth and Kathy. I'll send them out to both of you ladies. Thank you so much for playing our game. All right, folks. If you need to contact me, you can do so at support@sewincommon.com. I'll get back with you as soon as I can, which is typically right away, unless it's in the middle of the night and I'm sleeping. So you can ask me your questions there, anything you need, just give me a holler there, or always you can put your questions in the comments as well. You're very welcome, ladies. You're very welcome. And to find the Build a Quilt website, you just need to go to www.mybuildaquilt.com. You'll find our basic set there. If you are brand new and you're not sure yet that this is going to be for you, there are some free patterns, especially our half square triangle, the mama block of all quilting. The most often used quilting block ever in the world is the half square triangle. Download that free pattern, give it a try and see what you think. That might lead you to have some questions that you want to ask me before you make your purchase. And we'd love to help you with that as well. And if you are new with us, please subscribe if you enjoyed tonight's live, our Wednesday workshop. And I know some of you have been watching for a long time and you haven't subscribed yet. I'd kind of like to know why, but I'm going to ask you. Please click that subscription and go ahead and become an official part of our Build a Quilt community because we would absolutely love to have you. Please like and share the video. That's how this group has grown. Like I said last week, it's all because of each of you. That's how we have grown. So thank you all so very much. And as I tell you every week, quilters are artists. And you're an artist in your own right. No one can tell you that what colors you've chosen or what pattern you're doing or how you've switched it up is wrong because that's not true. You're the artist and you do what you want. And quilters make life more beautiful. We make the world a more beautiful place. So everybody, this week, go quilt life beautiful. Remember this coming Wednesday, which is the week of Memorial Day, we will not be having Wednesday workshop. So we will be back on the first Wednesday of June. I cannot wait to see you all then. No, Kathy, there is no assignment for the Reflections in Flight quilt. Great question. We will start that up again on June 3rd. So if you've got a little time to catch up if you need to do that, or just relax if you need to do that too. Everybody have a great Memorial Day. Please know that everything over at the website right now is 25% off if you are looking for patterns and stuff for our Memorial Day sale. And that is through, I think June 3rd is the last day of that sale. So it doesn't like end right on the 31st of May. It goes in a couple days in June, but everything is 25% off. So go take a look at that. Maybe find something that you want or need. Until next time, everybody, have a great day and quilt life beautiful. Bye for now.